Hey, what's up there? This is Cody the Coin Raptor coming at you with another Bitcoin episode. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about why Bitcoin has been falling and my plans on where I want to buy and my own recent buy, given the fact that Bitcoin has dropped so much. And I also want to talk about the reason why I'm considering buying more and why I'm bullish on Bitcoin in the long term. But before we get to that, be sure to subscribe, be sure to hit that like button, and be sure to follow me on X and Threads. So Bitcoin is down to 57,000. It is approaching this, what I like to call the ultimate support band that goes from about 58,000 down to about 53,500. Now, this is the area that I expect that the buyers are going to be stepping into support. If you notice, Bitcoin is also now below its 200-day EMA. This was also at about 59,500. Now, historically, if we take a look at the previous moves for Bitcoin and talking about the 200-day EMA, buying under this level historically has been a fantastic deal for Bitcoin. In fact, if we go all the way back to the start of the bull market, which we could say back in January of 2023, it rarely goes below this 200-day moving average. So that's reason number one why I'm interested in buying Bitcoin. I did actually make a Bitcoin buy just before the video started here. In fact, I just posted it and said, I made this buy. My fill price is about 57,800. And the goal of this is a small position sizing. It's going to be something that I'm going to add to as Bitcoin moves lower. And I do think there's a chance that Bitcoin will continue to move lower over the next couple of days. Now, the reason for this move is varied. Okay, there's a couple of things going on right now that are adding to the weakness in the Bitcoin price. Now, part of this has been the Mt. Gox payments. Arkham Intel posted this on X, and they said that they've been tracking these Mt. Gox Bitcoin addresses that have moved $2.25 billion in Bitcoin. And this redistribution has been ongoing. And right now, it still seems to be in the middle of the distribution. We haven't gotten total 100% confirmation that they're done with the distributions. But the what's going on right now is that people are getting their money back from that Mt. Gox hack. They're getting that Bitcoin back, and some of this Bitcoin is being sold. And that's partially the reason why we're starting to see Bitcoin sell off so heavily. The other reason is because there have been mounting recession fears, okay, in the U.S. They've talked about the SOM rule being triggered. They've talked about the job unemployment numbers going lower and lower, and so this is causing jitters and some FUD about the markets. And Bitcoin is correlated to the markets, generally speaking. And as a result, when things sell off, the traditional markets have been selling off. Usually, Bitcoin will follow that. However, we have seen a little bit of a divergence in the past couple of weeks, but it seems like Bitcoin is back to following those traditional market assets. So that's partially the reason why. We have the Mt. Gox distributions. We have profit takers as well. Now, remember that Bitcoin was also almost near 70,000 just about a week ago. So there's a lot of people who bought last time during this big dip down here in early July. They are most likely taking profits as well and pushing the price lower. So we have that plus algorithmic traders and the news of the Mt. Gox repayments. There's a lot of FUD going on right now that's causing the Bitcoin price to decrease. Now, if we take a look at our Bitcoin spot ETFs, we notice something very interesting, and that is that we've had a large amount of outflows on the 2nd of August. Now, we also have something new for the Bitcoin spot ETFs, and that is the introduction of BTC, Grayscale's new mini Bitcoin trust. We saw this had an inflow compared to mostly outflows on the 2nd of August. We actually start to see that they have net assets of about $2 billion. So this is something I'm going to be watching very closely. The fact that they've introduced that, and I made a whole video on it. If you guys are interested, check it out. It was the last video I did compared to this one about a week ago that talked about what they were doing with BTC and Grayscale's goals and using BTC to replace their GBTC position. So we're starting to see large outflows from Bitcoin, and most likely we will wind up seeing large outflows tomorrow when the market actually opens. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is the Bitcoin returns for July and the seasonality of Bitcoin. All right, now this is really important. The seasonality of Bitcoin normally is that July is a strong month for Bitcoin. Now, this time, July wasn't that strong. In fact, we only had an increase of about 3% when normally it's about 7 or 8%. And we're going into a seasonal period of Bitcoin, which is not really that good, okay? August and September mostly are very bearish months for Bitcoin. We've seen large decreases during those months. August, for instance, the median is a -7%, and September is about over 5% down for September. And then we get into the bullish months of October and November after that. So we could potentially see some more selling for Bitcoin coming in August and September, because seasonally these are incredibly weak months for Bitcoin. Now, on the other hand, I want to talk to you about the reasons why I'm bullish in the long term and the reason why I've been buying. So the exchange reserve continues to hit new low levels. So this number of Bitcoin on the exchanges, we see here that it continues to go lower and lower and lower and lower. Now it's sitting at about 2.6 million Bitcoin on exchanges. Now, if we back this out and take a look at the all-time, we can see here that this was as high as 3.3 million back in August of 2021. And now we're seeing a significant decrease from that level. So a number of Bitcoin on exchanges continues to go lower and lower and lower. There are still buyers that step in, even though there are net sellers, and there just is not as much Bitcoin. And I continue this. I'm thinking that this trend will continue for the foreseeable future. All right, especially as we had the halving happen and the amount of supply coming out of the market has decreased by half. So this is something that I think overall is going to be bullish for Bitcoin. Because when there's little supply on the market and on exchanges and there's a spike in demand, you tend to get a spike in the price as well. The other thing is the short-term versus long-term holder supply. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. We saw kind of a dip in the short-term versus long-term holder supply. It went all the way down to 77% of total supply for long-term holders. Now it's back up to 79%. And the reason why this is significant is because during periods of bear markets and the tops of bull markets, we tend to see that the long-term holders sell their Bitcoin. All right, like back in 2021, we saw it go all the way down to 67%, for instance. That was the high water mark for the Bitcoin price. But we haven't seen anything like that yet. 67% is incredibly low. Back in 2017, during the height of the bull market, it was down to 55%. Right now, we're sitting at almost 80%. So I think that we're not anywhere close to the Bitcoin, to the ultimate bull market highs. Now, the next thing I want to talk about that makes me bullish about Bitcoin as well is the options market. What's going on with the options? So options do tend to be very influential on the Bitcoin price. Now, we usually have our 30-day, our window, our monthly window that we take a look at when it comes to the end of the month options expiry. We go to the 30th of August. That has the most number of both calls and puts. And we're seeing here that the max pain price on the 30th of August is 64,000. So traders are betting on 64,000. Most likely is going to wind up being the case. If you pay attention to the max pain theory, Bitcoin will be attracted to this price amount. And if you're buying today at 58,000, that's a pretty healthy profit for you to book if you're a short-term trader, okay? And you're expecting, just like they are, that you're going to see 64K by the end of the month. I think that's reasonable. I don't think that's too out of the ordinary. I don't think that's too crazy to imagine Bitcoin at 64K by the end of the month. Now, the other thing is whale activity, okay? We go to our favorite whale, whale number 10. Whale number 10 is showing us that they continue to buy the dip, though I will say that towards the end of July, it seems like they've moved a significant amount of Bitcoin, probably about 700 here, 700 here, and another almost 650 here. So they've been moving some Bitcoin. I can't confirm with 100% certainty that it was a sale, but it most likely, I think, reading between the lines, I think it was a sale. They were selling Bitcoin from about the end of July. So basically, when it was up here and it was spiking near 68K, they were selling Bitcoin at about 68K, and then they have been buying the dip, and they will most likely be buying the dip today and tomorrow at these low levels below 60K, because this whale has been very aggressive in acquiring Bitcoin. In fact, they've acquired about 600 or so since the 31st here of July. So that's a pretty significant amount. I would expect that they're going to be buying most likely this dip today and tomorrow. Now, the other thing I want to talk about looking at Bitcoin in the long term is taking a look at the Bitcoin MVRVZ score. Okay, so this is the market value over the realized value. And basically what you're doing here is you're comparing the market value and the realized value, and you're giving it a score. So the market value is the current value of Bitcoin, and the realized value is the value at, you can think of it kind of like an averaged market cost basis. Okay, so historically speaking, these bull market tops go all the way up to about 8 or 9, sometimes 7. The last time we had a bull market top, we went all the way up to about 7 or so in February 2021. This would typically signify that Bitcoin is basically overpriced. Anytime you see a move above, say, 5 or so, then you start to get a little closer and closer to the ultimate top, the bull market top. Now, where we are right now is we are sitting at 1.6. And that compares to where we were, the high water mark for this year, which is 3.03. So Bitcoin still has a long way to go before it goes back up to those previous levels that we saw for the local bull market tops. You're talking about 6, 7, 8 for the Z-score. In some cases, it went all the way up to 7, 8, very close to 10. Actually, it kind of peaked and went a little bit higher than 10 in a couple of cases, but I don't think we're going to get to 10. We'll probably get to 7 or 8 most likely this time around. And remember, right now we're sitting at about 1.6. So not really that close. All right, next thing I want to talk about is the Fed, okay? And it's kind of crazy that we have to talk about the Fed because this is Bitcoin, but the simple fact is this is important. I've explained multiple times that Bitcoin and the Fed funds rate have an inverse correlation, okay? So when the Fed funds rate goes up, Bitcoin tends to go down. And then when the Fed funds rate goes down, Bitcoin tends to go up. Now, what we've seen so far is a changing of attitudes when it comes to the Fed funds rate, okay? And the Fed is going to meet on the 18th of September. This predictive tool, the Fed Watch tool, is telling us that it's most likely they're going to give us a half-point rate cut, okay? This is bullish for Bitcoin, all right? This is bullish for Bitcoin. If the Fed lowers interest rates, then more speculative, quote-unquote, assets like Bitcoin are going to benefit. Not only are they forecasted to cut half a point for this meeting, they're forecasted to cut most likely a half a point for the following meeting in November, and then maybe even a very small chance that we'll get another cut in December as well. All right, and again, all this is very bullish for Bitcoin. When we start to see those rates come down, Bitcoin will be the primary beneficiary as you have investors move their cash from things like money market accounts, which are earning 4 or 5% interest, and will be earning substantially less interest than appreciating assets. So we will see a dramatic shift of money from those accounts and money on the sidelines to, quote unquote, having speculative assets. And that's another reason why I'm bullish. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is where Bitcoin is in the current cycle. So we have the Bitcoin realized price that I like to look at, and this gives us an idea. It's color-coded based on the time to the next halving. And we start with this red color, okay? This red color happens just after the halving, and normally for every Bitcoin cycle we've seen, it tends to immediately follow a halving with a large increase in the Bitcoin price. We've seen it multiple years, dating all the way back to 2012, we've seen a large increase in the Bitcoin price. But normally this happens a couple of months after the halving. We're actually sitting at about 4 months or so after the halving. But this time, I think it's probably going to take a little bit longer to get going. And the best comparison we have here is to 2020. Now, from 2020, when Bitcoin went through its halving, it was about I think about April or so, and the price didn't really start increasing until about October. Okay, so that's a span of about 5 months. We have not hit that 5 month mark yet. I actually think that we're most likely going to see that when we get to these seasonally bullish months of September and October. I think that's where we're going to wind up starting to see it. We're going to have a large rally either September, October, or in November and potentially December. So that span of 3 to 4 months, that's when we're going to see the increased Bitcoin price. All right? But let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment below. Let me know if you're buying. Let me know if you're selling. Let me know if you don't want to touch it, if you want to wait until it basically bottoms out and then you want to step in. Let me know what your plan is, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.